This video is going to be talking about high-speed rail in the center of the universe, or the Quebec City to Windsor corridor. The high-speed rail Quebec City to Windsor corridor is the top choice for people who want HSR in Canada because it contains more than half of the population of Canada. The corridor has three of the largest metropolitan areas in Canada: Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa, the capital city of Canada. Rail Canada's passenger rail provides a already significant portion of its service in this area, and it's not that good compared to other international services. There have been tons of proposals like Railway's very fast trains, which was to bring HSR to the center of the. There are many people who supported it, like the former leader of the Liberal Party in 2007, Stephen Dion, said that he was for the development of high-speed rail and as a way to help fight climate change. The high-speed rail in this area could have connected with Chicago and Iowa's proposed HSR network. Travel between these cities in the center of the universe is serviced by airport, via rail, and highways. The most popular one being Highway 401. Fun fact, Highway 401 is the most deadliest. On January 10th, 2008, the Premier of Ontario, Dalton McGuinty, and the Premier of Quebec, Jean Charles, announced two governments would be doing a joint feasibility study. Cost around $2 million, but in today's money it would cost around $2.6 million to bring HSR to the corridor. The federal government also agreed to be part of the study because it contained more than half the population of Canada, as I've stated before. The Eco Consortium, consisting of firms Deason, 3M's Group, KPMG, Wilbur Smith and Smith Associates, and Justin Behan International, were granted the contract to upgrade the feasibility study for the center of the universe. It was supposed to take about a year, but it was delayed like all feasibility studies. The leaders of the Liberal Party in 2008, Michael Ingleff, said he would fund the project and that is a means to unite the country. The corridor is not just Canada, there are other parts of Canada. That's why people call it the center of the universe, because they are annoyed at the fact that the Canadian government only cares about this area, but I digress. His NDP opponent Jack Layton also agreed to provide funding for the project if he won the election, but he died in 2011. RIP. The result of the study were released on October 17, 2011. A citizen group called Highspeed Rail Canada released two results in technology of diesel traction and electric traction. With diesel traction, would cost around $18.9 billion, which in today's dollars would cost $24.1 billion. With diesel traction's max speed would be 20 kilometers per hour for a Windsor to Quebec City, Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto system would cost $9.1 billion, but in today's dollars it would cost $11.6 billion. Electric traction would give 300 kilometers per hour and would cost $1.3 billion in today's dollars. No, 21.3 billion, but in today's dollars it would be 27.2 billion. For the entire Windsor to Quebec City system, a Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto system would cost around $11 billion, but in today it would cost $14 billion. The study stated that the best route would be Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto system, which is the best choice for economic viability section and would bring a positive economic benefit for either diesel or. Subsequently, the report got political and chambers in the Windsor area got all stuffy about it, arguing about it, saying the least expensive HSR connection between Detroit, Michigan and Windsor must be part of the consideration, since Detroit is already part of high-speed rail plan. It will be connected with Chicago and many other U.S. cities. The redid the study also included a cross-border connection with the accounts for the greater. In an interview that occurred on April 15, 2014 with the CBC Radio, and Ontario Minister of Transportation Glenn Murray stated that HSR will be built between London, Kitchener and Toronto in the next 10 years. The first-class partnership was released to the public The FCP study considered a range of options, including connecting with existing services. Unlike the EcoTrain study, which stated to build a completely grade separated line for HSR, the FCP says that they should track with the existing corridor from Toronto to Georgetown, which should be upgraded with 4 to 6 track and should be electrified by GO Transit and Toronto Union Person Express. Also, the FPC noted subsequently traffic potentials for the line between Kitchener, Waterloo, and Toronto. This goes against the EcoTrain, which dismissed the idea of being too short for HSR and lower land acquisition problems could arise. Transportation Minister stated that the next step was to get ready for the environmental impact and said the line might be implemented within 8 years. The project faced significant technological and political challenges that fucking surprised no one. HSR will share the tracks with GO Transit, Airport Express, and Freight. HSR will share the tracks with CN, the main line. On December 5th, 2014, the Ministry of Transport agreed to begin the environmental assessment of the best route for HSR Toronto, Kitchener, Waterloo, London, and Windsor for 2015. May 19, 2017, the Premier and Transport Minister Kathleen Wayne, and Stephen Delka stated that they have the first steps in making HSR system by 2025 from Toronto to London and extending it to Windsor by 2031. Based on the recommendations of the Holyth report, the environmental report would be done by Metrolinx to bring all-day GO Transit trains to Kitchener and will be sharing the corridor. The message was received as a way to win the re-election for the 2018 Ontario general election, which, since we're all reading this in the future, they lost the election and the project was canned by Premier Doug Ford in late 2018, yeah, whatever, I'm on crack.